call the meeting to order. Let the record reflect that this is a public hearing being held pursuant to the requirements of Section 147 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended. Notice of this public hearing was published on May 8, 2020 on the website of the Office of the City Clerk of the City of Chicago. This TEFRA public hearing is held by video conference and made available to the public via a link located at and a toll-free number located in the following address: www.chicityclerk.com. Let the reporter mark the screenshot of the notice as committee's exhibit number 1 for identification. We'll put that up on the screen in just a second. This is a public hearing regarding the proposed issuance by the city of its not to exceed $24 million aggregate principal amount multifamily housing revenue notes to be issued in 2 series as: 1, multifamily housing revenue note, Emmett Street Apartments, Series 2020A, the Series A note, and number 2, multifamily housing revenue notes for Emmett Street Apartments, Series 2020B, the Series B note, and together with the Series A note, collectively called the notes. To Emmett Apartments LP, an Illinois limited partnership as the borrower, the general partner of which is BRC Affiliate Inc., an Illinois not-for-profit corporation, or the general partner, and the limited partner of which is Bickerdike Redevelopment Corporation, an Illinois not-for-profit corporation. Proceeds of the notes will be used to pay or reimburse the borrower for a portion of the cost of the acquisition of real property located at 2602 to 2638 North Emmett Street, and that's EMMETT. This is the northwest corner of North Kedzie Avenue and North Emmett Street in the city of Chicago, Cook County, Illinois, and construction thereon of a low-income family multifamily housing residential development known or to be known as the Emmett Street Apartments, and consisting of 100 residential dwelling units, all of which will be income restricted and related common areas as the project, and to pay costs of issuance of the notes and related costs of the project. The city will issue the notes pursuant to its power as a home rule unit of government under the 1970 Constitution of the State of Illinois and an ordinance adopted by the City Council of the city. The notes will not be a general obligation of the city, the state of Illinois, or any political subdivision thereof, but will be special limited obligation of the city. The principal of premium, if any, and interest on the notes will be payable solely from an amount received from borrower to repay its loans of the proceeds of the notes, except to the extent such principal, premium, or interest is payable from note proceeds, the income from the temporary investment of note proceeds, and monies derived from instruments delivered in connection with the associated loan. The notes will not constitute an indebtedness or an obligation of the city, the state of Illinois, or any political subdivision of the state of Illinois within the purview of any constitutional limitation or statutory provision. No holder of these notes will have the right to compel any exercise of the taxing power of the city, the state of Illinois, the United States of America, or any political subdivision of any of them to pay the principal of the premium, if any, or interest on the notes. Anyone who wished to submit written comments on the proposed plan were asked to submit them to the Director of Legislation and Policy, Mr. Owen.Brew at cityofchicago.org by 3 p.m. on May 15, 2020. All comments received will be made part of the public record. Let the record reflect that no written comments were submitted. Ladies and gentlemen, if any resident, taxpayer, or other interested person desires an opportunity to express their views for or against the issuance of the proposed notes or the nature and location of the project, you have an opportunity to make those comments or statements. Is there any member of the public, taxpayer, interested person who wishes to make a statement with respect to this matter? Seeing no such person, let the record reflect there has been no response to the question posed by the chair. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the public hearing on the proposed plan for the city of Chicago to incur the not to exceed $24 million principal amount multifamily housing revenue notes for the Emmett Street Apartments project.
Chairman,
let the record reflect.
Chairman,
yes.
It's Alderman Tunney. I had my hand raised.
I'm sorry, Alderman.
No problem. So for the record, I know this.
Please proceed.
For the record, this was the affordable housing, or will be, passed the Plan Commission, Emmett. Emmett. I know we're going to see it in the Finance Committee under second item, but for the record, though, if I'm not mistaken, there was no land cost since that was a City of Chicago parking lot. So you said TEFRA hearing was paying for land acquisition and for the building of the thing, but I think I remember that I don't think there was any money given to the city because it was a city-owned parking lot.
Yeah, I don't think there was any city money or any money given to the city.
So,
But and you're correct that it is up on item number 2, and we do have submission of testimony for that as well.
right. But in your comments, Chairman, you said it was for land acquisition. I think you should clarify that there was no land acquisition costs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and I'll make that on the record that there were no land acquisition costs on this property. This is, ladies and gentlemen, we can discuss it more in the second item on the agenda, but it was a parking lot that was owned by LAZ.
Great, thank you.
Right, and Alderman Tunney, I'm also just, this is the typical TEFRA hearing notice, but I'll make that point clear in the actual committee agenda.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Thompson, are you there?
I am. I lowered my hand. I no questions.
Okay. Let me look through and see if anybody else has any. Alderman Ramirez Rosa.
Thank you, Chairman Wagaspack. Just a point of clarification. So I do know that some people submitted written comment and signed up for public comment, but will that then be heard on this matter when it is on the second item of the agenda?
Yes, it will be on the public comment period, or added to the public comment period in the actual Finance Committee agenda.
Thank you so much for that clarification.
Not the TEFRA hearing section.
And then just one point of clarification. While the lot is being purchased by Bickerdike, I believe that it is only for $1. So I believe theoretically, yes, there is an acquisition cost of $1 in addition to legal fees and other payments that have to be made in order to execute that purchase for $1. So I just wanted to add that for the record, but thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Alderman Tunney, did you hear that? It was for $1, so there is an actual fee associated with it.
I got it.
And that will be brought up. That'll be brought up in the Finance Committee.
Great, thank you.
Let me just look and make sure there's no one else. Okay, that's all for testimony there. So let me go back one sentence here to make sure we get this in. Ladies and gentlemen, this will conclude this public hearing of the proposed plan for the City of Chicago to incur the not to exceed $24 million principal amount multifamily housing revenue notes for the Emmett Street Apartments project in the 35th Ward. Let the record reflect the public hearing on this matter was concluded at 10:13 a.m. May 18, 2020. And this concludes the TEFRA hearing. We'll step into our next meeting here. Ladies and gentlemen, the Committee on Finance is hereby called to order. The time now is 10:13 on Monday, May 18, 2020. Pursuant to the Illinois Executive Orders 2020-07, issued on March 16, 2020, and 2020-33 enacted on April 30th, 2020, suspending various provisions of the Open Meetings Act and encouraging remote meetings. This meeting is being conducted by video conference. For any questions during the meeting, Alderman, I ask that you use the raise your hand function to indicate if you have a question. And members of the committee will be given preference. However, if you are the member that has an item up on the agenda, I will make sure that you have the right to close on each one of those topics. If you wish to make that point of order, point of information, please again use that raise your hand function. We will now have a roll call to establish the quorum. Please unmute your microphone when your name is called. Alderman Hopkins. Alderman Dowell,
Here.
Alderman King,
Present.
Alderman Sawyer,
Here.
Alderman Mitchell,
Here.
Alderman Harris,
Here.
Alderman Beal,
Yep.
Alderman Sadlowski Garza,
Here.
Alderman Thompson,
Here.
Alderman Cardenas,
Here.
Alderman Quinn,
Here.
Alderman Burke,
Here.
Alderman Lopez.
Here with my dog.
You only get one.
Only one.
Alderman Moore,
Present.
Alderman Curtis,
Present.
Alderman O'Shea,
Here.
Alderman Brookins,
Here.
Alderman Tabaris,
Here.
Alderman Scott. Alderman Scott. Alderman Burnett,
Here.
Alderman Irvin,
Here.
Alderman Taliaferro,
Here.
Alderman Raboris,
Here.
Alderman Austin,
Yeah.
Alderman Villegas,
Here.
Alderman Mitz,
Here.
Just raise hand.
Alderman Spizzato,
Here.
Alderman Napolitano,
Present.
Alderman Riley,
Here.
Alderman Smith, Alderman Tunney,
Here.
Alderman
Alderman-
Smith here.
okay, Alderman Osterman,
Here.
and Alderman Silverstein.
Alderman Scott present.
Alderman Hairston, Alderman Scott, and Alderman Hairston, Vice Chair.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go back to Alderman Hopkins. Might be popping in later. Ladies and gentlemen, you should have a copy of the meeting minutes from March on the Finance Committee meeting per Rule 45. Does anyone have any changes or questions on that? May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Hairston. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, item number 2 from the Department of Housing is a matter we just held within the TEFRA hearing. This ordinance seeks to issue up to $24 million in multifamily program funds in the execution of a funding loan agreement with the Emmett Street Apartments for 100 affordable housing units at 2602 to 2638 North Emmett Street in the 35th Ward. Anna Booth with the Department of Housing will be joining us to testify, and Alderman Rosa will close on the matter. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do we have 1 second, please? Alderman Rosa, hold on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a couple of people provide testimony on this. They're doing a dial-in, so we're just setting that up. Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, this is now the public comment portion.
Speaker 1, Levy Todd, you may speak.
Thank you very much. Members of the Finance Committee, thank you for gathering today and inviting me to provide public testimony. My name is Levi Todd, and I'm a lifelong resident of Logan Square. I'm calling today to voice my support for the proposed Emmett Street affordable housing development, which is both incredibly necessary and incredibly supported by our community. As gentrification continues to displace many of our Latinx and low-income neighbors, affordable rental units are needed as an alternative to the soaring rents that continue to be driven up by the arrival of luxury apartments and condos in the area. I'm additionally thinking of how many families may be evicted at the end of the current COVID moratorium and who may be unable to afford the market rate. The proposed Emmett Street development with 100% affordable units is not just needed in Logan Square to prevent further displacement, but I hope to see more projects like it in the future, especially in response to the devastating economic impact of the COVID-19 crisis. Support of this project is sweeping in Logan Square. Last fall, I attended a community meeting in conversation with Bickerdike developers, alongside hundreds of Logan Square residents waving green slips of paper in support of the project. Additionally, Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa invited public input in the form of letters, phone calls, and emails at his office. And again, the support of this project was staggering. Our community recognizes that housing is a human right that unfortunately too often people are priced out of. The location of this development will provide its renters with convenient access to Blue Line transportation, nearby green space on the Logan Boulevard, a nearby library, and a plethora of restaurants and grocery stores. Though I have long supported this project, presently Chicago needs to address the housing crisis created by COVID-19. I remember seeing the wave of foreclosed homes in Logan Square that followed the 2008 recession and how it accelerated gentrification. Construction on the Emmett Street development must begin as soon as possible to fill the affordable housing gap in Chicago, and similar projects should follow soon after. I urge you today to take the necessary steps to move this proposal with approval through the Finance Committee. Thank you very much for your time.
Our next speaker is Cynthia.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Cynthia Lloyd, and I am a community resident that is in favor of the Emmett project. I myself live in affordable housing, and without the opportunity to have a stable home, me and my family would not be, I don't know where I would be at. I've seen Logan Square dramatically change, and families have had to move because they no longer can afford the apartment and live in the neighborhood that they once called home. Families are moving further away, and this should not have happened. I support Emmett project. As a community resident, we need to value people rather than a parking lot. That has not been utilized for years. So bring Emmett home. Thank you very much for your time.
Our next speaker is Ju Arugut.
Hi, good morning. My name is Joy Adrugete, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Bickerdike Redevelopment Corporation. Thank you to members of the Finance Committee and to Chairman Wagesback. Obviously, we are the project sponsor. Bickerdike Redevelopment Corporation, you may be aware, is a 53-year-old community-based development corporation. Emmett is an important project, not only to Chicago, but to the Logan Square community. Logan Square has, over the last 40 years, has been a majority Latino community. There's been a loss of Latinos at an alarming rate, and a loss of affordable housing that has accompanied and spurred that. The Emmett Street Apartment would go a long way in helping to provide the affordable housing that's needed for residents, the benefits of the economic development that's taken place in Logan Square. The Emmett Street project, as I know you'll hear from Anna Booth, is 100 units on a now city-owned parking lot that is very, very underutilized in Logan Square. The project has broad community support. There have been a multitude of meetings in conjunction with this project, as well as a community meeting that had over 500 people, who the vast majority voted in support of the project. We need the Emmett project because we need the people that need affordable housing, particularly as we are in a challenging economic time because of COVID-19. Not only do we need affordable housing for residents that are in jeopardy of losing their homes and their apartments, but the Emmett Street will create employment. The Emmett Street project will have 26% MBE hiring and 6% WBE hiring. 50% of the working hours on constructing this project will be done by residents of the city of Chicago. 3 of them will be from the 35th Ward. I am available to answer questions. I know it's not customary to hear public testimony from the project sponsor, but these are unusual times, and I would be available to answer questions when the time is appropriate.
Our next speaker is Juan
Thank you, Joy.
Aria.
Hi there, this is Juan Sebastian Arias. I'm calling or testifying on behalf of the Metropolitan Planning Council, and I want to express our strong support for the issuance of the revenue notes to support the Emmett Street apartment projects. And I'll try to be brief with these comments, but to give a little bit of background, back in 2014, MPC partnered with the 35th Ward office and a number of stakeholders to host a series of public workshops about the future of the site just above the Logan Square CTA station. Through that process, we engaged over 370 participants to identify what community residents wanted to see. And through that whole process, affordable housing was the top priority for the use of limited public subsidy there. And this was about 6 years ago, before, or since then, gentrification and development has continued to grow in Logan Square, making affordable housing all the more important. So we see this fully in line with the community interests that were expressed to us. The second reason is because we also see building more affordable housing in Logan Square as critical for advancing racial equity in Chicago. By building more affordable units in a neighborhood that is seeing housing costs rise very quickly, we're combating segregation, and this is specifically or particularly important in a neighborhood that has lost over 20,000 Latinx residents since 2000. I'll leave it there and just encourage or just again strongly urge that the committee shepherd this project forward. It's much needed across Chicago and even more so in this time of economic and housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan.
Our next speaker is Isabel Cabrera.
Good morning. My name is Isabel Cabrera. I am a paramedic in Avondale Logandale School with LSNA, Logan Square Neighborhood Association. I have 3 children aged 10, 9, and 7-year-old. They attend the same school. I live in this University Square apartment located a couple blocks away from the Logan Square Monument and next to Emmett Street. I've been living in this neighborhood for 8 years already. Gentrification has been affecting our neighborhood very drastically. But the most important, and what it got me here sharing my testimony, is the displacement of families in our neighborhood. The high price of rent made them move to more affordable homes out of the area of Logan Square. And some others had get to the point of leaving the city. Also, our local school has been affected by this phenomenon of gentrification. We are seeing a decrease in students, which means that our schools get less resources. The income of the school budget depends on the number of students. If there's still a decrease of students, there will be less resources for the school. And we get to the conclusion that this has to stop. There are also students that have to travel miles to keep attending Avondale Logandale School, because this is the school where they have their friends, their teachers, and this is the school that has been seeing them growing up. The aftermath of the pandemic of COVID-19 that we are currently living in this time, as we already know, it will take us into a crisis. These 100 units of affordable housing is a hope. It's a hope for our neighborhood, a hope for our local schools, a hope for our families, but also it's a hope for a better future. With that saying, I ask the alderman of the Finance Committee to approve Allen Street project, 100 units for affordable housing. Thank you and have a great day.
There are no more public speakers.
Thank you, Ms. Cabrera. Thank you. We'll now have questions from the committee. And I'll have Alderman Carlos Rosa close on this. Alderman Lopez. Can you hold on just a minute, Mr. Alderman Lopez? We have Mr. Jeffries to speak.
Chairman, I believe it was supposed to be Anna Booth.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hold just a second, please, because we had Anna Booth trying to get on, and Tim was the backup, but
Oh wait, she's back. She's here.
all right, hold on a second, folks. And I'm putting together the list of people to speak, but Anna Booth is going to speak first. I think we got her on. Anna, can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Walkerstack and members of the committee. I am Anna Booth from the Department of Housing, City of Chicago. So as mentioned, the Emmett Street transaction is a transit-oriented development that will be located at 2602 to 38 North Emmett Street in the 35th Ward and the Logan Square neighborhood. Emmett will consist of the new construction of a 7-story elevator building that will house 100 affordable rental 1 to 3 bedroom apartments, community space for residents, bike room, commercial space on the ground floor fronting Kedzie Avenue, and 20 off-street parking spots for the residents. All 100 apartments will be offered to individuals and households at the 60% area median income and below levels, and 50 of the units will be rented to CHA public housing tenants. There will be a total of 33 ones, 49 twos, and 18 3-bedroom units. The commercial space will be approximately 4,100 square feet, and the developer intends to fill the space with community-supported use or uses and will work with the Logan Square Chamber of Commerce and Alderman Ramirez Rosa's office to promote the rental of the space to local businesses. The flexible unit sizes will provide the opportunity to create up to 3 separate spaces, which will allow the project to cater to small, local, and/or minority-owned enterprises. The project itself has been underwritten without the support of the commercial rent, which means that the developer will have the flexibility to offer below-market rents for the spaces. And its total development costs are approximately, $40.7 million. And the city will be providing tax-exempt bonds not to exceed $24 million, 4% low-income housing tax credit, which are automatically generated due to the use of the bond, $10.1 million in TIF assistance, up to $2 million in multifamily loan funds, $2 million in Illinois Affordable Housing Tax Credit, better known as donations tax credit, and will convey the city-owned lot for $1. The CHA will provide loan funds up to $13 million. The developer for this transaction is Bickerdike Redevelopment Corporation, a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation that was founded in 1967. The borrower is Emmett Apartments LP, an Illinois Limited Partnership. Alderman Ramirez Rosa supports the creation of this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Booth. We have a couple of folks with questions. Alderman Lopez first. So Anna, could you please stay on the line?
Sure.
Thank you. Alderman Lopez. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. First off, I want to commend Alderman Rosa for this development and for seeing this through. But I do have some questions, and my questions relate to TIF financing, not just on this agenda item, which I'm going to speak to, but about all of them. You know, when we look at what TIF funding is, you know, generally we've had plenty of discussions about where TIF funding is meant to be used for blighted areas. And Logan Square is not one that I generally think of as being blighted, the exact opposite, which is why I think it's so important that what we've heard today is that we're building something to help people who are being pushed out from the gentrification. That I get. But I have a problem when we have communities on the south and west sides who are also waiting in the wings for TIF dollars to make their way. Things that we even publicize on our own website, where we say that TIF is a special funding tool to build and repair roads, infrastructure, clean and remediate land, and put vacant properties into productive use. And in many of these communities, we are not doing that, or we're dragging our feet to do that. But here, from start to finish, this has been a push to get this money into the hands of a not-for-profit developer to build this. I have some concerns about that. And I'd like to know, whether it's from DPD or whatever, what are we doing, not as it relates to this project, but to ensure that TIF dollars are making their way into other neighborhoods as well for the things that we state? Because it's hard for me to support this when I know for a fact that there are communities waiting 12, 13, 15 months for an answer to get their projects off the runway. So whoever would like to answer that from DPD, I'd appreciate that.
Do we have anyone on the line to answer for DPD regarding overarching TIF questions?
No. Chip is on.
I can certainly.
Oh, go ahead, Chip.
I can certainly chime in on that.
Okay, just identify yourself first, Mr. Hastings or Mr. Jeff. Thank you.
Chip Hastings, Managing Deputy Commissioner, Department of Planning. To your question, obviously I'll start with sort of the high level pullback version. Obviously affordable housing is need for it in the city. It's an eligible cost, it's a TIF eligible cost. This project, as you know, took years to bring to fruition. A lot of different departments had their hands on this, both from a financing perspective, zoning, housing, and a couple of other departments as well. They're very, very difficult deals to pull together. They typically require multiple funding stacks that have to align at the same time. And frankly, there was money available in this TIF to fund affordable housing as a priority. So we work with the local elected official and Department of Housing. I defer to them to add anything additional. We work with both those parties to prioritize funds in this particular community. And there was a strong desire to fund this project because of its ability to retain affordable housing in a community that's resulted in gentrification and displacement of existing residents.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Alderman Lopez.
I appreciate that answer, but I think, again, you know, we are having a comprehensive discussion on almost $15 million in TIF expenditures today, including 10 million from this, 24 million, 25 million total for the day. And I think, you know, it's not without reason to ask, what are we doing to ensure that other communities feel this benefit as well? And what are we doing in a timely fashion to get the money there? I also am concerned because, as you know, Chairman, there's a program that just came out of the Housing and Real Estate Committee that deals with developers such as Bickerdike with regards to the with COVID-19, and it's a 3-year rental assistance subsidy for them. On projects like this that are now being finalized in a post-COVID era, are those kind of protections also in future ordinances as it relates to housing? the same ones that we put in for the emergency basis from the housing committee last week. So that if you're accepting city dollars, that you cannot push people out for failure to pay rent on pandemic or emergency related issues.
Mr. Hastings, if you can answer that, go ahead. But if it's an issue, I think we need to bring the housing commissioner in on for another day. We can do that as well.
Yeah, Chairman, to your point, I would defer to either the managing deputy, the first deputy, or the commissioner of the Department of Housing to answer policy-related questions on that front.
Alderman Lopez, I think it's a good question, but I think we should have a broader discussion about that, which we can bring up I think on perhaps in another meeting. I don't know if it's specifically related to this actual topic, but it does bring up a good point about the future policy post COVID.
Thank you, Chairman. And I think it is something that I think would have been nice to have had in this discussion as we're talking about $10 million in TIF-related funding for this project, especially when 40 units, I would imagine, are eligible for being covered under some sort of crisis, particularly when they are part of this city NFP partnership. I would have liked to have seen it sooner, but definitely I think before the next partnership moves forward in the future, we should have that kind of language incorporated into our ordinances as well. Thank you, Chairman.
And thank you, sir. And I think we can make a direct ask of the housing commissioner as well to deal with that issue. Let me move on to Alderman Burnett, please. Alderman Burnett.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I just want to comment. First of all, I want to commend Alderman Rosa on this project. I commend his tenacity and him staying with it. I commend Bickerdike for doing things like this all over the city. Matter of fact, I have 3 projects in my ward that Bickerdike has done. And it takes a lot to get the funding in order to do these things. Just want to make sure my colleague, Alderman Rosa, Alderman, we support you. We support affordable housing. We support you utilizing this TIF dollars. And we also know that the only ones who can really get TIF dollars are the folks who have healthy TIFs. We have projects that's in their wards that's producing TIFs in the area. And you're fortunate that you have a community which puts increment back into the TIF. So that helps you to get more money in order to be able to do those things. But also, Alderman Rosa, just want you to take note that, everybody's going to support you on your project and your TIFs. You got to make sure you support everybody else on theirs and their TIFs. I know you have supported mine, and I appreciate that. And I commend you. I commend the city with all of the different funding that they have helped Bickerdike to get, because it takes a lot of funding to get this. The reason why they have some CHA in those apartments is because they're using PRAs in order to help subsidize the development. And those things are needed to make things happen. And you can consider that to be the city also. So I commend the mayor and the city on their help with this affordable housing that's happening in Rosa's ward. Congratulations to you. And congratulations again to Bickerdike for all the great work that they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Burnett, and beautiful painting behind you. When you move, you look a little bit like Tron.
Yeah, and George Blakemore didn't do that either, just for the record.
Very good. Okay, up next we have Alderman Osterman, and then Thompson, and then Cardenas. Alderman Osterman.
You'll have to tell some of the younger members what Tron is, Chairman. I want to commend Carlos Ramirez Rosa for this this project and his tenacity, as Alderman Burnett just mentioned. I think it takes a lot to get a project like this. I think it's really critical in communities like his that have experienced gentrification that these projects happen. They don't happen fast enough. I also want to say that this is an absolute right way to use TIF funds. TIF funds and TIFs were created as economic tools, not to be used for infrastructure and other things. We use them in Chicago to do that because there hasn't been a lot of state capital dollars, but using TIF funds created in his community in this TIF is the way to use those funds, and creating them for affordable housing has a ripple effect of providing needed affordable housing, but also bringing people to his community, keeping people in his community who will spend their money locally, who work locally. So I think this is the absolute right way to do this, and this has been something that's been worked on for a long time. We need more projects like this in all 77 of our neighborhoods across the city. So glad to lend my support.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a couple questions, and I apologize if this was discussed in the summary of the project, but you know, we got this the packet here. It's a $24 million project, so it's $14 million in bonds that we're going to lend to the development, roughly, and then $10 million in TIF. Is that correct?
This is Anna Booth from Department of Housing. That is incorrect. The total development cost of the transaction is 40.7 million, and up to 24 million of tax exempt bonds will be issued for the benefit of the project. 10.1 million in TIF fund.
So between the bonds and the TIF, that's 34 of the 40 million.
That's correct.
Okay. And then does the current TIF have the $10 million in the balance, or is this going to be done like as a pay as you go? This doesn't pay any tax though, correct? Project won't generate any real estate increment tax?
So it is, the TIF will be generated from the PINs, small TIF increments from the PINs, as well as what's already in the TIF will be used. And so you're correct in that it's a pay-as-you-go. There will be no TIF funds available at closing, so the bonds will bridge the TIF. TIF will be paid in 3 installments, 2 during construction. The first TIF payment is expected to be paid at 33% construction completion, which will go in to pay for those eligible costs and really retire the bonds that pay for those eligible costs. And then the second payment will come in at 66% construction completion. The final TIF payment will come in at 100% construction completion and at the issuance of the certificate of completion.
Okay, so the bonds that are being issued are secured by at least a portion thereof, the $10 million of TIF.
That's correct. So the bonds that are being issued, they will come in, a portion of those bonds come in at closing to pay for costs that are due at closing. The bonds will be secured, as you just mentioned, with TIF payments, future TIF payments, and future equity payments. The equity is generated from the 4% tax credit. So the the bonds are retired by TIF payments and future equity payments. The permanent portion of the bond, which will be about 3.5 million, that is paid with net operating income from the building, generated from the building.
Okay, but the exposure to the TIF is a maximum of $10 million.
10.1 million.
Okay. All right, it's a good project. I was just trying to understand because we don't see these often where in the city doesn't often issue bonds supported by the TIF bonds. And so it's just a little bit different than what I've seen. So, okay, I appreciate it. It's a good project. I wish the the alderman and his community well, and it'll be a good project for the city as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Cardenas, and then Alderman Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I do also echo my colleagues in commenting on this project, on this TIF project that is definitely TIF eligible. And this is one of those areas that I think behooves us not to support. It is obviously very complex, and it's taken a few years to get done. And I'll just say that I know from a policy standpoint, my colleagues are asking about restriction covenants on TIF, obviously funds that are giving to these firms. But also there's a flip side, since this is there's equity payments that need to be done at the end of the day. And if you restrict covenants, or you put covenants in there to restrict their ability to generate those revenues, like rent abatements and stuff like that, I think you could put the project in jeopardy overall, because they can always come in and say, we're not going to be able to meet the equity payments, and therefore a compromise does not just this project but other projects. And I just throw that out there because at the end of the day, it's debits and credits. And money has to come in, money has to go out. But at the end of the day, this particular project and TIFs are what they're supposed to do. And I'm glad that it's happening here. Our ability to support Alderman Rosa in this particular project, it gives you an idea of the complexity of TIF and TIFs and what they're about, but also in policy debates later on when other eligible TIF projects come into being, and we get also some pushback from not just organizations, but just individuals that may question the need or necessity of a particular project. And we have to just have rules that we all can agree on. And if it's TIF eligible, and we agree on that decisions are community-based on what those needs are, I think we ought to be supportive, and this is why I'm supporting this project. I would hate to see policy debates later on if I was to have a project eligible, TIF eligible, that they would question the need or sincerity of that particular project in my area if it comes to be later on. So I support it, but I just want to leave that open for further discussions that we have to support each other on projects that our community needs and must have. And I know this is one of them. This is why I support it. I don't want to belabor that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman David Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. Just real quick, just following some of the steps that Alderman Thompson was going, so I can fully understand. How much is in the TIF now? Is it 10.1 million in the TIF now? Does people hear me?
Alderman, can you repeat that again? You broke up there. Please repeat your question.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I was just following up on some of Alderman Thompson's path that he was taking from my understanding. How much is in the TIF now? Is it $10.1 million in the TIF right now?
Again, this is Anna from the Department of Housing. I do not have a copy of the TIF projections and what's in there as of this point. If someone from DPD cannot produce that, we can definitely get that and get it back to you. But as of right now, I do not have the specific TIF projections and what's in the Fullerton Milwaukee TIF at this point.
So,
okay.
Chairman.
Alderman, hold 1 second. Chip Hastings is still on the line. Let me see if he can pull it up for us. But it's definitely more than the 10 million being asked for. I don't know exact amount though. Mr. Hastings,
yes, I am. I can retrieve the report, but to your question, the deal is structured to access existing increment. So the increment has been allocated within the TIF to pay for the project as Anna mentioned, during construction and at the completion of construction. So it's funded with existing money within the TIF.
And so that's why I'm, okay. And I'm fine with this, I'm just trying to get understanding. But so when you say it's funding with the existing money, it's a $40 million project. But we have TIF money there already, but we're doing 24 million in bonds, correct?
That's correct.
So that's why I was asking, we got a 40 million project. When we have TIF money, that money is actual money that's there, correct?
It's already in the increment is already in the TIF, correct?
Right, that money exists. That's real money, correct?
That's money that exists.
Okay, right. So what I'm asking is, so of this 40 million, how much right now real money are we putting in? Or are we just leveraging all that money from a loan standpoint? Is it that we're not actually using the money, but we're going out and putting bonds out and just getting bonds for the 24 million and then just backing that up with the TIF? That's what I'm trying to understand.
So a portion of the TIF, when it comes in, it will indeed go to repay the bonds.
Okay,
the bonds are issued and the developer goes out.
I don't know if you can hear me. Stop right there. Because when you say when it come in, please, you got to go slow with me.
No problem. Sure.
When you say come in, I'm trying to get to the point of what's there, because I'm thinking if I have $30 million in TIF there, it's a $40 million project, then why am I not using 30 million to go ahead and pay for it and then leverage the other 10 million with TIF? That's all I'm asking. I'm trying to understand.
So let me make sure I understand your question. So are you asking why are we not putting $30 million of TIF in there? As opposed to using 24 million in bonds and 10.1 million in TIF? Is that the question?
Or if the TIF got 200 million in it, why aren't we just using all the 40 million just to pay for it?
Okay, so in housing transactions, there are TIF eligible costs. The TIF eligible cost basically is composed of the acquisition, which we know that's only $1, and then the hard construction of the unit. And so the entire transaction is going to cost $40.7 million, but that entire $40.7 million is not TIF eligible expenses.
Thank you.
So the TIF couldn't come in to pay all of that. Okay.
So what is that? What is that TIF eligible piece of that 40.7? How much?
So the TIF that is going to come in is 10.1, and construction costs are at about 28.1 million. So the TIF would be able to take out about 10.1 of that hard construction cost, because TIF is eligible to pay for construction costs. Then we have to make up that gap, because we can only get that 10.1 for the eligible costs. So then we have to come up with other funding sources to pay not only the rest of the construction costs, but also the soft costs that are associated with these transactions.
Okay, so I got to keep it simple for my people out here that's listening, that's in the community. So of that 21.8, you're taking away 10.1, which leaves you with what, 9 point something?
Roughly, yes.
Right. And then is that, then you got 40, then you got another 20-something million left that's not TIF eligible, correct?
Correct.
So that's where the 24 million bond is coming in at?
So the 24 million bonds will pay for construction costs. They will pay for the soft costs.
You don't have to break. I appreciate you breaking that down. I'm just trying to stick to that 29 right now. Stay with me, because I'm around 29, of which there's a gap between the 21 and 21.8 minus the 10.1, which leaves you 9.1. That's, I believe, TIF eligible still.
That's in the
Correct.
hard construction cost. That's just the hard construction cost that I gave you. The 28.1 was the hard construction cost only. I did not give you the balance of the 40.7, which would be the soft cost.
Right.
And so when you say there's 9 million left, you're talking about 9 million of the hard construction cost that
That
still
is-
has to be covered with other funding sources.
Right, because only 10.1 of that was eligible, correct?
TIF eligible.
TIF eligible, right.
The 10.1 is the TIF money, TIF
Right.
eligible.
Right. So that soft cost plus that other 9.1 hard cost, that's what I'm asking, comes out to close to another 20-something million dollars. I don't have my calculator with me, but roughly another 20-some million dollars. And that's why I'm asking, is that where the bonds coming in at?
So the bonds will cover, like I was saying, the bonds will cover the hard construction cost. So it can cover the remaining as well as soft costs associated with the transaction that has to be paid. So the bonds can cover hard and soft costs is what I'm trying to say.
And then from the bonds, then that bond money is then paid back as more TIF money come in going forward?
That is correct. So there will be 2 payments of TIF increment coming in during construction. When it comes in, the first payment will be at 33% construction completion. Those TIF funds will go to repay TIF eligible costs that were associated with the hard construction cost. And it will, in turn, it will pay down the bond. So the bond, a portion of the bonds has to come in at closing to cover costs that other funding sources can cover and will cover later in the transaction, but those monies will not come in at closing.
Okay, and so so all of this is, correct me, affordable housing, correct?
That is correct. This one is 100% affordable.
Which is fine, and we got a developer that's doing it, correct?
A non-for-profit, Bickerdike Redevelopment Corporation.
I love it when people say not-for-profit. They make more money than we can. I just want planning to remember, then we're gonna find not-for-profit. Don't be telling me people gotta come in with money, because this sounds like nobody is coming in with $1 and somebody's gonna make money. I'm cool with it. I'm happy for my colleague. I am so cool with this. But I just want them to remember, when we're coming to the table, I don't wanna hear what are the developers coming in with. We gotta find not-for-profits to build. Okay, because if we can do this, we could do it in definitely some of the areas. I'm so proud of
That's right.
Carlos Ramirez Rosas for getting this done. But I needed to just break that down, because it's too many times we're trying to do projects and then people saying people got to come in with money, because the developer's still going to make some money on this. This is great, because everybody say not for profit, but still people making money. So I'm good.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to clarify something. I thought what I just heard during this exchange with Alderman Moore was that there is a balance of $10 million in the TIF, and we're utilizing that. I thought during my questioning, it was responded to that there isn't money in the TIF available, and that we're issuing the bridge loan of the bonds, and those will be paid down during the construction period in 3 tranches, because there isn't a balance. Can I just get a clarification on that?
This is Anna. No, that's not correct. There is TIF increment available. However, we do not put TIF funds in at the beginning, because we need those TIF eligible costs to be expended. And so how we conduct the TIF is 2 payments will come in during the construction period to repay those hard construction TIF eligible costs that have been expended.
Okay,
And so Chip Hastings did confirm that the increment is there, and we will be paying it out in 3 increments, 2 during construction and then 1 at 100% construction completion.
okay. Thanks.
Any other questions, Alderman? No? Okay. Alderman Riley.
Move to pass.
Alderman Riley, I just had a question from Alderman King and Alderman Dow first. And I'll take your move to pass after we hear from them. And Alderman Rosa. Alderman King.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just want to add my congratulations to Alderman Rosa on this. You know, I think affordable housing is a responsibility of the entire city, and this is a prime example of that. Just wanted to follow up on MBWB participation, also, I think, a responsibility of the entire city. Can someone speak to that? What is the projected participation for this? I don't know if Alderman Rosa or somebody on the project can.
So this is Anna Booth from Department of Housing. The MVE-WBE will be 26% and 6%.
Okay, and so I guess I just would encourage, you know, you, Alderman Rosa, to encourage the developer to even seek higher participation. When I look at funding like this, it's really being funded from taxpayers that, you know, represent the entire city, which, you know, we all know is over 66% diverse. You know, I look at those numbers and I still think they're low. I know that they're goals that the city has set, but they're not the ceiling, they're the basement. And so I would just encourage you to encourage the development team to seek higher goals, especially since it seems like almost 100% of this is coming from, you know, some type of city, state subsidy. And again, our city is a very diverse city. So congratulations again, but I just encourage you to look at those numbers and to see if we can get more inclusion there.
Thank you, Alderman King. Alderman Pat Dow.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I wanted to first congratulate my colleague. I know how difficult these multi-layered financing deals are, especially when you are trying to do affordable housing, all affordable housing. I have a question for the department, which is in your conversation with Alderman Moore, I didn't hear you mention the Chicago Housing Authority and how they participated in this deal. I thought I heard that 60 of the units were CHA. So is this in the form of a loan or just what's the value of their participation and how's that?
So this is Anna Booth from the Department of Housing. That is correct. 50 of the units will go to the CHA tenant, and the CHA is putting in loan funds up to $13 million.
Okay. All right. So again, I just wanted to congratulate my colleague. I hope he, as we move in the future, that he understands that all of us have very difficult deals we're trying to put together in our wards, many times using tax increment financing, and that it's going to take all of us working together to kind of create the city that we want. And so I want to support this project and hope that in the future, he will continue and support projects like these in other locations throughout the city. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Dowell. I'm sorry, Alderman Ramirez Rosa, would you like to close on this item?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Wagasback. I'll keep my comments very brief. Thank you to all my colleagues on the Finance Committee that asked questions and that have expressed their support. Your favorable consideration of this project is greatly appreciated by myself, the entire Logan Square community that has supported this project so strongly, 35th Ward residents, a nonprofit affordable housing developer, Bickerdike, Logan Square Neighborhood Association, which has worked day in and day out to build community support and organize around this issue. United Neighbors of the 35th Ward, which some years back launched a door-to-door petition and began by collecting 600 signatures in support of this project and the surrounding community going back to 2016. The Metropolitan Planning Council, which worked with my predecessor to begin a community input process and participatory planning process to talk about the disposition of this lot. This project has now taken over 5 years to get where we are today. It's gone through the Plan Commission, where it received great support from the city and from the commissioners. It's gone and passed through the Community Development Commission, where once again, it received very positive feedback and support, both from city officials and the commissioners on the Community Development Commission. It also has gone before the Zoning Committee, where it also passed and received the support that it needs. And one of the reasons why is that it's a good project. It's a necessary project. We already know the cost of displacement in our communities. It tears at the fabric of our neighborhoods. It makes us less healthy, as so many studies have shown. And we know that the healthiest and safest city is a city that is integrated, where people have a safe place to call home. This project was important before this pandemic, but this pandemic has made it that much more necessary to get it done. And I look forward to the day that someone who is facing housing instability, someone that maybe has left Chicago, maybe they lived on the South Side and they couldn't find affordable housing there, so they ended up in Kankakee. They get that call from the CHA because they've been on the wait list for years, and they say, we have a wonderful apartment for you to call home. So it is so great that this project is going to be 50 CHA units. That's going to help Chicago residents stay here or come back to the city if they've already had to leave. It's also going to provide 50 units that are going to be leased by Bickerdike that are going to be all affordable, that are going to be leased through a leasing plan that will help target people that are facing displacement in Logan Square. Working with Logan Square Neighborhood Association, working with my office, and working with our local neighborhood schools to make sure that people are entering the lottery for those 50 units so that we can keep some of our working families that are facing displacement in the neighborhood. So this is going to help diversify our community, keep it diverse. It's also going to help to ensure that people have a safe place to call home. And as so many of you have noted, it takes a difficult lasagna of funding to get there. So thank you so much to the CHA. Thank you to the Department of Planning and Development for supporting this. Thank you to the Department of Housing. Through the use of the CHA funds, through the use of the low-income housing tax credits, through the use of the TIF, and this bond, which essentially is the mortgage that the city is providing, that is going to have to be paid back by the rents that are generated there and by the TIF. We're going to ensure that 100 families have a safe place to call home. So you received email packets from Mario from the Finance Committee. You will not find a single negative remark in those comments that were sent to you. You will also find a report that was written by my office that documents the extensive community input process that went into getting us here. That community input process included more than 1,500 people reaching out to my office, and 1,248 of those people provided unique addresses, so we know exactly where they live. And of the people that provided unique addresses, and of the people that commented but didn't provide addresses, consistently 2/3 of them, by a margin of 3 to 1, said, get this project done. So this project has a lot of community support. It has a lot of institutional support. It's been recognized by our Commissioner Cox as a textbook example of exactly what you want to do when it comes to equitable transit-oriented development. And so my community and myself are proud to support this project today, to make sure that TIF dollars are used to meet community needs, to make sure that city-owned assets and low-income housing tax credits are used to meet community needs. Thank you so much for your favorable consideration of this project, and thank you to Chairman Wagasback for this hearing today.
Thank you, Alderman Ramirez Rosa, and congratulations on this project. It is a neighboring project to our wards, and I congratulate you for ushering this through over the last several years and getting the partnership together with the mayor's office to get this thing moving. So congratulations again. Moved by Alderman Leslie Hairston. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? In opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Congratulations again, Alderman Rosa. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to item number 3 on our agenda. This is an appointment of Jessica Drost-Yagan as member of the Chicago Community Catalyst Fund Board. We were joined by Ms. Drost-Yagan, and she will have an opening statement, and then we will move to any questions that you have.
Morning. Thanks so much for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead and if you want to say a few words, and then if anybody has any questions, we'll have you answer them. Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me here today. I'm sorry I couldn't join in person at the March meeting. I'm honored to be considered by you for appointment to the Catalyst Fund Board. My name is Jessica Drost-Yagan. I'm currently CEO of Impact Engine. Impact Engine is an impact investing firm here in Chicago. We make investments in private companies that we believe deliver both, private financial returns as well as public good. Specifically, we invest in companies that directly improve education, health, economic empowerment, or environmental sustainability through the products they sell. We've also worked very hard over the last 8 years to try to bring impact investing as a topic and increase the awareness in Chicago through events such as our annual Chicago Impact Investing Showcase. I spent my entire career working to better align capitalism and social good. Before joining Impact Engine, I led sustainable sourcing for McDonald's Corporation, finding ways to improve the social and environmental impacts of their $20 billion food and packaging supply chain. And before that, worked in urban economic development, looking for what industries cities could invest in to create sustainable jobs and wealth. I currently serve on the boards of the Metropolitan Planning Council, the Rustandi Center for Social Sector Innovation at Booth, the Honeycomb Project, and Fixer, which is a public benefit corporation here in Chicago, which trains individuals in the trades and then employs them to fix things in people's homes. I recently joined the Mayor's Recovery Task Force on the Policy and Economic Stimulus Committee and the Investment Committee at Chicago Community Trust, primarily to help them think about using impact investing as a tool to improve Chicago alongside philanthropy. I care about making Chicago a better place for all who live here, and I hope that we can build back from COVID, not to where we were, but to a better place, to a more equitable city. I hope I can use my experience aligning private and public needs to help the Catalyst Fund achieve success. I'd be honored to serve on the board if you approve my appointment. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the committee members?
Motion to approve.
Okay, was that Alderman Osterman or?
Cardenas.
Alderman Cardenas. Alderman Cardenas makes a motion to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Drost-Yagan.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you're muted.
Chairman,
Yes, Chairman.
it's Ed Burke.
Yes, sir. Go
I
ahead.
just want to make sure you can hear me now. I'm on a telephone. There was something wrong with the internet hookup.
Yes, sir, I can hear you. We just passed the Catalyst Fund appointment. Did you want to vote yes on that?
Sure.
Okay, we'll mark you down as a yes. Thank you, sir.
I did have I could originally see you, but then something happened. But I don't know if you were able to record me as being present.
I did, sir. Yes, I had you as present at the beginning of the meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you have a question, you probably, since we can't see the raise your hand, you'll have to probably interrupt if, a couple times, or just voice out if there's any questions if you're on the phone.
Yeah, I did have my raise hand button depressed, but apparently it wasn't going through. But I did at the beginning of the meeting wanted to acknowledge the historic significance of this date.
Well, sir, if you'd like to go ahead.
Well, probably not
go
too
ahead
many
right now.
people realize this, but today, May 18th, is the 160th anniversary of the nomination of Abraham Lincoln for president here in Chicago at the historic Wigwam, the first presidential convention hosted by the city of Chicago in its long and rich history of political involvement.
Nice to know.
Thank you. Thank you. And it carries on to today.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Alderman Burke. Let me move to Alderman Mitz. Alderman
Yes.
Mitz, you have a question?
Yes, I had stepped out. No, I just want to make sure I was recorded as a yes vote for the Catalyst Fund.
Yes, ma'am, you were. I had you down as recorded as voting yes.
Thank you.
And present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to now move to item number 4 on the agenda for the Department of Planning and Development. Item number 4 is a proposed ordinance concerning the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for certain renovations at Black Hawk Park. This is located at 2318 North Laverne Avenue, located in the 36th Ward. We're joined by Nelson Chung from BPD and Beth O'Reilly from the Chicago Park District to testify on this particular matter. And I'll go ahead and hand it off to them to give us a little background on this project. Nelson, do you want to go ahead and start?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Nelson Chung with the Department of Planning and Development, and with me today is Beth O'Reilly from the Chicago Park District. We're here to testify in the next 4 items, authorizing the Department of Planning and Development enter into intergovernmental agreements with the Park District for park improvements. So the first one, which the Chairman notice, is the proposed ordinance authorizing the Department of Planning to enter into intergovernmental agreement to provide $3 million from the Belmont Central TIF to the Chicago Park District for improvements to Black Hawk Park. Black Hawk Park is a Chicago Park District park located at 2318 North Laverne within the Belmont-Cragen community area. The 6.8 acre park is just south of Fullerton and just east of Laramie Avenue. The park contains a 30,000 square foot field house, which was originally built in 1926, and features an indoor pool, gymnasium, classrooms, and a kitchen. The park offers fitness programs, basketball, volleyball, and aquatic. The TIF funds will be used for field house renovations, which include roof and gutter replacement, masonry tuck pointing, window and door replacement, as well as ADA access improvements and interior restoration to the ceilings and floors. The project is located in the 36th Ward, hence the support of Alderman Villegas. Notices were sent to Alderman Raboyes, Cardona, and Sposado, who also share this TIF district. In summary, the Department of Planning supports this ordinance to provide $3 million in the Belmont Central TIF to the Chicago Park District. And again, Beth O'Reilly is also here today to answer any specific questions regarding the improvements.
Thank you, Nelson. Are there any questions for Nelson from the committee? Give me one second. Okay, seeing as how there's no questions, Alderman Villegas, would you like to comment on this?
Thank you, Chairman. I think one of our colleagues made a comment regarding the process for TIF. And so moving forward, I would like to make sure that prior to these intergovernmental agreements being approved, that the aldermen that encompass a TIF are brought in. Obviously I'm going to support any investments that occur in the 36th ward, especially when they deal with parks and making sure that our community has a safe place to go. But given that we just passed a capital bill at the state level of $45 billion, I'm wondering what monies did the Chicago Park District receive via the capital bill that they could kind of spell out their capital plan, and is the $3 million request for TIF shortfall of a bigger plan that they have, or is it the total project that they have identified? Is that something that's being totally funded by TIF?
The scope that's defined in this project is all funded with TIF. Yes. What's in the state capital plan? I don't have that available at the moment. I can look into it, keeping in mind that the state funding, while it's programmed, it takes a long time for us to get the agreements. And sometimes, like we're just getting a release of 2015 grant funds now. And a lot of it that has been in the capital bill has been previously approved and really not new projects.
Okay, so then if through the chair, if you can provide, if the Park District as well as CPS to provide all the capital dollars that have been programmed for the capital bill and send that through the chair to all the members, so that way we can kind of find out what the Chicago Park District and Chicago Public Schools receive via the capital bill. So that way a plan could be better. Again, I support this project. I'm going to support every project and any improvement that's going to be in anybody's ward. But I think we need to make sure that that the Park District, as well as the Department of Planning, as well as CPS, are communicating with those aldermen that are impacted by the TIF. So that's my statement on this. Again, I support it, but I think there needs to be a better sense of communication from planning to the members in the City Council.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. On item number 4, may I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Hairston. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Congratulations, Alderman Villegas. Item number 5, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin, we have a note that there is a Scrivener's error on item number 5. The name of the park should be Avondale Park, not Avalon Park. The address is correct, however. This error will be corrected in the report and ordered out. So item number 5 is a proposed ordinance concerning the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for certain renovations at Avondale Park, located at 3516 West School Street, located in the 35th Ward. We still have Nelson Chung from DPD and Beth O'Reilly with us, and they will testify on this item.
You're muted, Nelson.
Oh,
Nelson, you're muted.
all right.
Try start over again, please.
All right, thank you again. For the record, my name is Nelson Chung, Department of Planning and Development, and together with me today is Beth O'Reilly from the Chicago Park District. This next item is a ordinance to provide $2.855 million from the Kennedy Kimball TIF to the Chicago Park District for improvements to Avondale Park. Avondale Park is Chicago Park District Park, located at 3516 West School Street within the Avondale community area. The 1.25 acre park is situated along the Kennedy Expressway, just at the Belmont Kimball off ramps. The park contains an outdoor swimming pool, playground, and field house with club rooms, gymnasium, and a gymnastics center. The field house was originally constructed in 1930 and is one of the 9 Park District gymnastics facilities located in the city. The TIF funds will be used for field house renovations, which include roof replacement, masonry tuck pointing, window restoration, and site improvements to improve ADA access, as well as replacing some of the drinking fountains. The project is located in the 35th Ward and has support of Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa. Notice again were sent to the 33rd Ward, who also shares this TIF project. TIF district, I'm sorry. To conclude, the Department of Planning and Development supports this ordinance to provide $2.855 million from the Kennedy Kimball TIF to the Chicago Park District, and we're here to answer any questions if need be.
Thank you, Nelson.
Chairman,
Um,
this is Cardenas. I just wanted to make a comment that I think I'm seeing several items on your agenda that has a park district, and my colleague Villegas talked about the park district and the fact that we have really no information in terms of what's going on with the Capitol bill. But more importantly, we hardly know what happens in the park district. And I don't know if there's someone from the park district on the call. And they should, if there's many items that we are passing.
Beth O'Reilly is on the call.
Beth O'Reilly, yeah, because I think we need, and I'm not on the committee of Parks and Recreation, but we should have Park District come in and inform the body on the Capitol bill, because I have a park Little Village Park that I need to also, make informed decisions on what comes next, and a lot of us are probably in the same boat. I don't want to belabor this. I think they ought to come in and brief everybody on the Capitol bill.
Alderman Hopkins moves to pass.
Thank you. Alderman Hopkins moves to pass on item number 5. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion carries on number 5. And Alderman Cardenas, we will work through the chair to get more information from the Park District sent to everybody about exactly what the capital plan is and what they're looking forward to in the upcoming year. That'll make sure we get some of that information to each one of the members. And
I appreciate that. I think in light of COVID and open spaces, we need more information from them on what the plan is.
okay.
It's in my ward.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on. Alderman Villegas.
Mr. Chairman, I just, to that point regarding capital, just want to let you know that I have a resolution in my committee that's going to be having hearings in capital. Obviously, we were going to do it sometime in April, but after the government shut down, as soon as we get some type of normalcy, we'll be having some hearings on capital because I think my colleagues all have the same questions regarding how capital funds are being expended.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 6, this is a proposed ordinance concerning the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for certain renovations at Clarendon Park, located at 4532 North Clarendon Avenue, located in the 46th Ward. We're joined by Nelson Chung and Beth O'Reilly on this project as well. Nelson, can you give us the background on it? And please put up the information page on the screen.
Okay, for the record again, my name is Nelson Chung, Department of Planning and Development, and today with me today is Beth O'Reilly from Chicago Park District. This next item is a proposed ordinance authorizing the Department of Planning to enter into an intergovernmental agreement to provide $6.9 million from the Montrose Clarendon TIF to the Park District for improvements to Clarendon Park. Clarendon Park is a Chicago Park District park located at 4501 North Clarendon within the Uptown community area. The 12-acre park is located just north of Montrose, next to the lakefront. The park contains a community center, which was originally built in 1916 and last renovated in 1972. The community center features a gymnasium, fitness center, and club rooms. The park provides a variety of programs, which include basketball, cheerleading, soccer, and volleyball. The park also hosts the Garfield Clarendon Model Railroad Train Club, which is one of the largest in the United States. TIF funds will be used for the full interior renovation of the community center. Total cost of the interior renovation is $13 million. $6.9 million will come from the Montrose Clarendon TIF. $1.5 million will be a contribution from Chicago Park District, and $4.6 million was a developer contribution from the Montrose Clarendon Partners. which is building a new mixed-use tower across the park. The project is located in 46th Ward and is support of Alderman Kappelman. The Montrose Clearing TIF is located fully within the 46th Ward. In summary, Department of Planning and Development supports this ordinance to provide $6.9 million for the Montrose Clearing TIF to the Chicago Park District. And yes, we are available here to answer any more questions.
Any questions from committee members? Alderman Osterman.
Thank you. Will the 13, the final product, will that cover the entire cost of the, it's a rhetorical question, but will the, and this is for the Park District, will the amount of money we're appropriating cover the entire cost of the project?
Yes.
And when will it start and when will it be done?
It's in final design now. Once we get approval from City Council for the TIF funding, we'll move to issue a notice to proceed. The design, we had several design plans based on whether or not we were going to get extra money. This has been phased.
Okay. To the members of the committee, this is a project that's been working on for probably 5 or 6 years or longer by Alderman Kappelman. Clarendon Park is a significant park within the Uptown community, very diverse use of people that use the park, specifically young people. So I think this renovation will really enhance the park and be a benefit to the community. So I would ask people to support it, as will I. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add to that, Harry, they used to also have great 16 and softball leagues up there. Did you say that is Alderman Kappelman in this meeting, and does he support this? Not only did he support it, did he initiate this, or how did this come about?
Oh, this as Alderman Osterman just mentioned, this project's been around for a very long time. There was a lot of conversation whether it was going to be a tear down and new construction or a renovation of existing. So the community process has been going on for years. The community decided that they'd rather have this building renovated. So we had different schemes to get the full project that we want, you know, that I would be perfect, would be over $20 million. So we are working within the limits of available TIF funding, and we scaled the project to available increment to complete a meaningful project for the community. And the community has been very involved. They've signed off on every element that will be funded and completed.
Okay, again, my question is, does Alderman Kappelman?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's had numerous meetings and has been sort of, he's been out there saying that he had secured additional TIF funding to get more of the scope completed than what we originally were allotted. His office is very supportive.
Excellent. Well, good. You guys are busy. We've got a number of park improvements going on here throughout the city.
Okay.
Congrats.
Correct. I have a motion to pass from Alderman Harris. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
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 In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, item number 7 is a communication for a proposed ordinance concerning the authority to enter into and execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Park District for renovations at Chopin Park, located at 5400 West Cornelia Street, located in the 36th Ward. Joined by Nelson Chung again and Beth O'Reilly on this particular project. If you'd like to give us the background, please.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is Alderman Viera. It's actually located in the 30th Ward, Alderman Herboidas.
That's correct. Actually, I'm sorry. That's correct. I misread my notes there. It is, ladies and gentlemen, in the 30th Ward. Go ahead, Nelson.
Thank you. This last item is a proposed ordinance authorizing the Department of Planning to enter into an intergovernmental agreement to provide $700,000 from the Belmont Central TIF to the Chicago Park District for improvements to Chopin Park. Chalpine Park is a Chicago Park District park located at 5400 West Cornelia in the Portage Park community area. The 9-acre park is located just south of Addison at the corner of Long and Cornelia Avenue. The park contains a field house, which was originally built in 1928. The park offers arts and crafts programming, guitar, piano, and other instrumental music programming, as well as indoor floor hockey and soccer. The TIF funds will be used for field house renovations, which include roof and gutter replacement. The park, again, is located in the 30th ward and has support of Alderman Raboyes. Notices have been sent out to all wards 31, 36, and 38 who share this TIF district. Conclude the Department of Planning Development supports this ordinance to provide $700,000 from the Belmont Central TIF to the Chicago Park District. And that concludes my testimony.
Thank you, Nelson. Are there any questions? Alderman Lopez. I'm sorry, I had a question from Alderman Lopez first.
Thank you, Chairman. I wanted to wait until we got through all of these items. This is $13.4 million of TIF that we're giving to the Park District in total. And I believe that in previous conversations, maybe it might have been the end of last year or very beginning of this year, we had discussions with the Park District and why only 30 million of their budget is set aside for these types of projects as opposed to the constant reliance on TIF. And I think at the time we asked for a list of the $30 million worth of capital projects that they had coming down the pike. Did we ever get that, Chairman?
I do not have that in my documents for these prior to these projects, but that is something I think several aldermen brought up today, and I think it behooves the Park District to perhaps in one of our meetings next month, we could have the commissioner or Beth come in and testify directly to that funding, as well as I mentioned, next year's capital plan.
Well, I believe a number of the members were asking about the state's capital bills and things of that nature, but I was actually referring to what they had specifically allocated through their own budgeted infrastructure budget. Because I think, you know, we never know where the end line, where the goalpost is for the Park District and its construction. And I'm very much, you know, wanting to support these projects, but we never know where we're at with regards to what they're funding, what they're not funding, and what they keep asking the city's TIF dollars to go toward. So I know that I'm 95% confident we asked this before. I was looking through the Rule 45 reports, but I don't want this to be one of those issues where it's just forgotten or we just push to the wayside, because obviously it is important to know what this other governmental body is doing or not prioritizing with their dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Osterman.
We did ask for a list of projects, and I think in an appropriate time, having Beth come out or come back to us to lay out the capital. I think it's important for members of the committee to know that while the city is dealing with its financial hardship due to COVID-19, the Park District is also experiencing significant hits to their budget that may not affect their capital, but I also think that as a lakefront alderman, there's significant capital renovation that's going to be needed because of the high lake level. But I think to Alderman Lopez's point and others, I think at some point in the near future, doing a briefing by the Park District to the members of this committee would be appropriate.
Can I just jump in real quick? Sorry if I missed something on the general capital plan. I did send the list of all the TIF projects that we've got in the hopper and that we're planning on coming forward. So that was presented to Finance Committee. Alderman Osterman is right. Our capital program is very fluid right now with the lake levels. And just to give some context to the $30 million, that is our whole capital program. The amount allotted towards facility renovations is more along the lines of $5 to $7 million. So we can get you the list. We do a lot of district-wide programming out of that $5 to $7 million. That includes just roof repair, HVAC, and some window replacements. I can get you the list, happy to pull that together on what we spent the money last year. As I said, this year, we've been advised that we're really slow rolling our 2020 program because our resources are very stretched and the revenue isn't coming in, as you can imagine. We're losing lots of permit revenue. So if we scale back our 2020 program, we're going to have to make some hard decisions on what is happening. But typically our annual capital program is 30 million, of which only 5 to 7 is spent on facility rehab.
Thank you, Beth. All right, I have a motion to pass on this item from Alderman Dowell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Item number 8 is a proposed ordinance concerning the authority to enter into execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago School Board for renovations at Budlong Elementary School at 2701 West Foster in the 40th Ward. Tim Jeffries from DPD and Ivan Hansen from Chicago Public Schools will testify on this matter.
What's up?
Tim, could you go ahead?
Nope. What's going on?
Alderman Cardenas, could you mute yourself? Thank you.
Chairman, I believe it is Jim
All
Harbin
right.
for DPD on this item.
Oh, Jim Harbin's going to do the. Jim, are you available on this one? Mr. Harbin? I know, hold on, everybody. I know that Mr. Harbin was on earlier, and let me see if he's. Where is he on? Hold on one second, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Harbin's going to hop back on here. Tim, he's getting back on the line, but it'll take a few seconds for him to get back on. Might be just on via phone. If he can't get back on, do you have the background on it?
I can certainly get it. It might be good to switch.
Okay.
Get it. I don't have it right now at my fingertips, but I certainly can get it.
Okay.
When we need it.
Give him a few seconds to get back on. Here we are on item number 8, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Harbin, are you on?
Yes, I'm sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. For some reason, right when you needed me, I got kicked out.
Okay. Well, we're talking about the Budlong Elementary School at 2701 West Foster project is your project. So if you could give us the background on it, we'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So good morning again, Mr. Chairman and members of the Finance Committee. For the record, my name is James Harbin, Deputy Commissioner from the Department of Planning and Development. I'm here to request the approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the Chicago Board of Education and the Department of Planning and Development to provide tax increment financing funds to reimburse the costs associated with improvements at Budlong Elementary School. Budlong Elementary School is located at 2701 West Foster Avenue within the Lincoln Square community area. Andre Vasquez of the 40th Ward is the alderman of the project site. The project will provide TIF funding to the Chicago Public Schools in order to reimburse CPS for the costs relating to the replacement of the existing crumb rubber turf field with new organic infill and replacement turf. The project consists of replacing the existing crumb rubber turf field with new organic infield. The turf replacement program is intended to replace all crumb rubber with safer organic field and prioritizes projects based on age, condition, community needs, and funding. The total project cost is $300,000. TIF funding will be provided in an amount not to exceed $300,000, which is 100% of the total project cost. Alderman Vasquez has been contacted by CPS about the project and is in favor of the project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harbin. Are there any questions on this item? I don't see any hands up, so on item number 8, may I have a motion for approval? Moved by Alderman Scott. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, items 9 and 10 are being held in committee at the request of Alderman Villegas, and we'll move to item 11. Item 11 is a proposed ordinance concerning the authority to enter into and execute a redevelopment agreement with Portage Park Capital LLC regarding the redevelopment of land at 3611 to 3657 North Central Avenue, located in the 36th Ward. We're joined by Tim Jeffries from DPD to testify on this matter. Okay, thank you, Tim. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman Wagesback, members of the Finance Committee. My name is, for the record, my name is Tim Jeffries, Deputy Commissioner in the Department of Planning and Development. I'm here today to request your approval of a redevelopment agreement between the city and Portage Park Capital LLC for the purpose of redeveloping an approximately 36,000 square foot vacant parcel into a mixed-use development. This agreement will authorize the use of $3.3 million in TIF assistance. The parcel is located at 3633 North Central Avenue in the Portage Park community area and the 36th Ward. The site was formerly a Dominic's grocery store, but that facility closed in 2004 and has remained vacant since. The proposed project will redevelop the parcel into a 122,320 square foot mixed use development containing 12,000 square foot of ground floor retail and a self-storage facility on the upper floors and a self-storage. The total project cost for this project is estimated to be $12.5 million. If approved, the redevelopment agreement will authorize up to $3.3 million in TIF assistance for the facility, or 26.5% of the total project costs. City funds will be paid after the completion of the project with area-wide increment. Approximately 1.25 will be paid upon both the issuance of the certificate of completion and the first anniversary of that issuance. The remaining $800,000 would be paid as a reimbursement for interest accrued during construction and would be paid in equal installments starting at the certificate of completion through the expiration of the TIF. DPD supports the project because it will eliminate a large vacant parcel and return the site to productive use. The project is also expected to create between 18 and 22 permanent full-time jobs upon completion, in addition to 60 construction jobs. The project will also follow the city's requirements for MBE, WBE, city residency, and prevailing wage. I thank you for your consideration of this request, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Jeffries? Alderman Villegas, do you wish to close on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate DPD getting this project over the finish line. One of the things that has been a concern, not just to me, but some of my colleagues, is regarding the fact that the sense of urgency from some of the departments. And I would say that given this pandemic that we're in right now, time kills deals. If the department, any department, is not nimble enough to close deals quickly, we could find ourselves in a position where we're losing jobs and losing opportunities to neighboring states and cities. So I would just encourage DPD to move a lot quicker on things. This has been a project that I've been working on for coming on almost 2 years, and will create jobs, will bring some conservation TIF dollars to this corridor, begin to have businesses reopening along this corridor. And it's been, as Tim mentioned, it's been vacant for 16 years. And so I'm finally glad that we're finally getting something here. I'm the fourth alderman to inherit this vacant property. And it's not no negative reflection on my predecessors. It's just that when you're trying to get these deals done, if the financial world doesn't take you seriously, they just move on to different projects. And so as we've enjoyed a ton of development down in the Central Business District, as well as in the South and West Loops, which I support wholeheartedly, it's good to see that finally we'll get a crane in a neighborhood and begin to put union men and women back to work. So with that, I ask for the committee's favorable consideration.
Thank you, Alderman. Can I have a motion for approval for item number 11?
So
Move to
moved.
pass, Alderman Scott.
Move to pass by Alderman Scott. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Congratulations, Alderman Villegas. Ladies and gentlemen, item number 12 is a proposed ordinance evidencing intent to issue $100 million in general obligation debt obligations by the city and appropriations connected therewith. We are joined by CFO Jenny Bennett to testify to this matter.
Thank you, Chairman Wagasback. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Good morning, members of the Finance Committee. My name is Jenny Huang Bennett. I'm the CFO for the City of Chicago. The city is seeking approval for a short-term $100 million capital plan to cover immediate capital construction needs throughout the summer. This capital plan includes $83 million of funding for aldermanic menu money. The $83 million keeps the aldermanic menu program at the same levels per ward, along with additional funding for CDOT engineering as well as ADA costs. Another $14 million of funding for fleet replacement purchases under the Department of Asset Information and Services. These fleet replacements include 200 police vehicles, 15 salt trucks, and 2 front-end loaders. Many of these vehicles are currently past their useful life. Another $3 million of project funding for the shared cost sidewalk program. The city is proposing to get this program kickstarted as soon as possible, in part to create jobs as quickly as we can in the midst of this crisis, but also to make sure the city can take the opportunity to take advantage of the summer construction season. The ordinance submitted for your approval is seeking authority for the inducement and appropriation of the capital projects. The projects will be funded from the existing $100 million line of credit, and the city will seek authority from City Council for a general obligation bond financing later in the year to repay the line of credit. Our intention is to have a broader conversation later this year around a new strategy towards a long-term capital. There are several important considerations in determining what a fulsome capital plan should look like, both in normal times as well as post-COVID, including ensuring equity of investments across the city, creating a needs-based assessment of the city's infrastructure needs, as well as layering in affordability of such a capital plan and various funding sources to pay for capital. These are conversations that had started before the current pandemic, and we look forward to having these discussions with you later in the year. I thank you for your consideration of this item, and Budget Director Susie Park and I look forward to your questions and comments.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Brookins, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you said that this keeps the funding level for the automatic menu, but does that mean that they're raising the prices of the items in the menu?
So the prices of the items in the menu, I understand, was briefed to the alderman early on this year. That that schedule is going to remain the same for what we're funding at this point.
Yeah, but I think they slightly increased from last year.
Yeah, there may have been an increase. Susie, I don't know if you've got the details around that.
There are certain, this is Susie Clark, Budget Director. Yes, Alderman, there were a couple items that I believe the cost has gone up, but the menu program we are keeping flat for this year.
Yeah, but if they're increasing the prices and keeping the menu money the same, then technically it's a decrease.
So I think those are part of the discussions we were having as we started looking at the longer term capital program, knowing that some of these, prices are increasing overall. And so how do we, balance that out? For now, we are introducing the same flat amount that we had last year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman David Moore. Alderman Moore. Alderman Moore, are you there? Okay, let me come back to Alderman Moore. Alderman Lopez.
Good afternoon now, Chairman. Good afternoon, ladies. I wanted to touch on the 83 million for the menu. 66 million is normally what the menu costs for the alderman, correct?
Yes.
So 66, so that leaves us with 23, thank you, 21.
17 actually, yes.
17, thank you. I'm trying to do it on the fly. 17 million unaccounted for. What is the additional 17 million for?
So 7 million of that is for CDOT engineering that they do as part of those projects, as well as $10 million is set aside for ADA ramp.
Is it possible to get through the chair list of where these ADA ramps are being installed throughout the city?
Yes, I will check with CDOT to see. I mean, none of these projects that we're coming for, we're asking for approval now, so I don't know if they've started, but I could definitely talk to CDOT and see if they have a list available. And if there is one, I will put it through the chair.
So then, I'm sorry. So all of us submit our menus already or have 85% of it in the works already.
Oh, okay. And yes, I will talk to CDOT and get a list for you.
Thank you. My next question, following on what Alderman Brookins said, is that all of the prices did go up. Now forgive me, we have conversations routinely about the amount that's borrowed to fix our menus. Why are we, and we've had discussions in the past about why don't we borrow more, expand more for aldermanic needs based on the conditions in our communities, because obviously 1.3 million in Lincoln Park is not the same as 1.3 million in Pullman. Are we having discussions going away from aldermanic spending moving forward? Is that why we're not raising our borrowing with the times and the costs of these projects?
So I know Susie had provided a response as it relates to the details of what had been provided in January, but just to add to her comments, we did have discussions pre-COVID about how we can have a more holistic approach towards capital funding, one that layers in equity, one that layers in all the different funding sources, as I heard in the Finance Committee conversations even before this item. And that conversation is ongoing. This capital plan we're proposing is really meant to address the short-term immediate needs that we need to get to over the summer, to the extent that we need more or less funding in certain areas, and are looking forward to our conversations with you around that. This doesn't prevent us from being able to do that. So, if it is that there's, for example, a more needs-based assessment towards capital infrastructure needs, we can come back and have that conversation. But importantly, we didn't want to hold off on that at this point. We really want to be able to get moving on some of the most critical projects, which we know are necessary, in particular over the summer.
Well, I know one of the projects that we've dealt with a lot, and something that's been brought up by myself and numerous aldermen are like the WPA streets, of which there are thousands of them throughout the city of Chicago. And the water department just did less than, I think they did 0.9 mile, not even a full mile of improvements this year. Is that something that's in the works as well? Because I know that it's very frustrating having to deal with a federal government that has given up on its responsibilities to the people. But seeing as how we're looking at a long-term strategy, that I think should be incorporated separately, because right now much of that is deferred back to aldermen. So are we talking about that as well in your long-term borrowing strategy as it relates to capital improvements?
Yes, Alderman, this is Susie. We are looking at all of that, the resurfacing, the WPA streets, to really look at, what a robust capital program looks like, and that, if we don't have to offset with menu, and is this part of that larger program? So yes, we are looking at WPA streets as part of that.
Awesome. You mentioned getting people back to work. A lot of these projects we often hear about, many individuals who are being bid out from out of city companies. Is there a way, or are we looking at enticing people to hire residents locally? There are zip code specific add-ons to these contracts, but are we doing more to ensure that we get a higher number of individuals who are Chicago residents, so we could put our people to work locally? directly as opposed to just anecdotally.
Alderman, this is Susie. Yes, I mean, I think that is a great recommendation. As Chairman Villegas pointed out earlier in the meeting, one of the things we're looking at as part of recovery is for all of these projects, how do we quickly get things shovel ready? What are the best ways to get people back to work and have these projects that, especially the ones that are approved, how we can get those ready and moving. So that is a great recommendation.
And then lastly, thank you, Chairman. How is the rest of our capital plan looking? Are we still able to meet a lot of the obligations that we have, things such as not just our menu, but obviously many of the big ticket items like the Police and Fire Academy, things of that nature? Are we going to have a different discussion later, or are we able to still meet those obligations that the council's approved pre-COVID, obviously?
All right, I could start with the obligations. We are most certainly going to meet the obligations of the capital plan that was approved. The bond financing for that has already been secured, and that money is there and available to use towards those appropriations. To the extent that there are potential additional needs or alterations to the projects that were approved there, we would expect to have that conversation as a part of the broader capital plan discussion that we have later this year, and would want to be able to get some specifics about the details of each of those projects so we can make sure that that's incorporated in that discussion.
By later this year, you mean during budget, not sooner?
We'll have to see how long it takes for us to get out of COVID to the recovery process, and importantly, what the state of the city's finances are looking like. And, so it's all a part of a broader discussion of affordability, but also about what are the critical needs when those various critical needs need to get started by way of projects. And so it's a bit of a moving target at this point.
All right. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderman Napolitano.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and to everybody online as well or on Zoom. I'd like to kind of reiterate on what a couple of my colleagues had mentioned, especially what Alderman Brookins had mentioned about the menu. What scares me about this is going forward is we're constantly approving these menu budgets, and we're looking at a 3 to 5% increase every year on what we're being charged for menu. And now being in a fifth year of laying out a menu, it's already been recorded that the recorded life expectancy of infrastructure such as streets is 5 to 7 years. It scares me that we're still staying at the $1.32 million menu budget per ward. We have in my ward close to 700 streets, about 400 of them that could really use resurfacing, and yet we're only resurfacing 16 to 18 per year, and it's lessening because of the increase of 3 to 5% annually. Streets that costed about $61,000 in 2016 or 2015 are now $79,000 to $80,000. I think we're going to have to eventually come to the point where we all just stop, reel this in, sit down, have some hearings on this and what we're putting into infrastructure, what we're paying as an annual increase every year, and what we're actually getting done. Because one of the most important things to, I think, every single one of our wards is the infrastructure. And it seems like this is a system set up to fail when we're resurfacing 16 to 18 streets per year. That's decreasing every year because of an annual increase. I'm not blaming anybody on this Zoom meeting, but there has to be a point when we stop and redo this and rework this, because we're not going to get ahead of the infrastructure problems in our wards. And that's not even including alleys. Some of us can't even touch alleys because we have too many streets. Chairman, I hope we can have some hearings before budget actually about this. I'm just this. It seems like we're pushing a boulder up a hill here, and we're never going to get ahead of our infrastructure problems in our ward. I'm okay with being a yes vote on this going forward, but there has to be a time when we make an actual change on behalf of what everybody cares about in our wards is the 30 feet in front of their house and 30 feet behind their house. And if they're in dilapidated shape, or if we can fix them or not. Like I said, 5 years ago, we resurface streets, and those streets are already coming back up to be resurfaced again because they're in such bad shape. I just hope we can actually have some hearings on this and come
2 o'clock today.
come to a head with it and change this a little bit. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and I think 49 other aldermen would agree with you. So we can work with the administration on that as before we get to the budget. But that's something that we'll continue to all work on together. Alderman Osterman.
Yeah, just real quickly, I'd like to say that to Alderman Napolitano's points, a lot of what we're doing with our infrastructure is basically maintenance. It's how are we fixing a street, and it breaks down 5 years later. So it's keeping up the quality, and there's some that can't. The point I want to make to Ms. Park and Ms. Bennett is, I think with the COVID-19 and just citywide moving forward, having a very, very significant capital component that will rebuild neighborhoods, I think is going to be very critical. I think one, on the employment side, but two, just on investments in communities that have not seen investments in significant amount of time. So I think that that to me is going to be something very significant as far as getting people to work and building our local economy. And I know you guys know that, but I wanted to take the opportunity to reiterate that, as well as trying to get as much money out of the state capital budget as possible.
And I'd like to just take a moment to add to Alderman Napolitano and Alderman Osterman's comments. This is a balance and also a much needed conversation, and we recognize that. It's a conversation we need to have about needs-based assessments for capital project planning. The best capital plans out there by cities and other governmental entities looks at what the needs are, builds a plan for how you fund them, and then you follow that plan. Obviously a lot easier said than done, especially given the extensive nature of the needs and ultimately the fact that we do have a limited set of resources. But importantly, especially in this time post-COVID, the government has a role to play in helping to support the economic recovery as well as investment in Chicago's future. And so it's a conversation that I think is very important for us to have. It's not going to be easy, but we are looking forward to having those conversations with you.
Okay, I have questions from Alderman Moore, Sadlowski, Garza, and Villegas for you. Alderman Moore. Alderman Moore. Alderman Moore, I think you're muted.
Okay, I'm back. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, first question. It says reimbursements cost. So money has been spent on all of this already or no?
No, this is a requirement that we have for bond financing. If it is.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just saw some say reimbursement costs. So I just want to make sure. I understand. I've seen this before. So was a breakdown sent to us like the amount that's going for grants and constructing equipment and altering and repairing various municipal facilities? Have we, of that 100 million, have we broken those costs down? Was that sent to us? If so, I missed it.
So the breakdown we can't provide at this point because the majority of it is aldermanic menu money, and we haven't gotten all of the aldermanic requests in. The categories that are in the attachment in the exhibit to that ordinance, in essence, covers all of the areas that aldermanic menu money could be spent on. Once it is that we do hear back from all of the aldermen as it relates to the requested projects, then we can certainly provide that breakdown in more detail. At this point, what we can say is that the amount of the 100 million that's reserved for the aldermanic menu money is the 83 million in the breakdown that that we provided a bit earlier.
Okay, so all of this is about menu. So we'll say grants to assist in not-for-profit organizations or educational or cultural institutions. So when you say not-for-profit organizations, what menu parts of our menu money do we spend on not-for-profit organizations?
Susie can speak to this a bit more, but I understand that there are certain of the aldermanic menu funds that can be spent, which ultimately then have to get provided through those grants. Susie, I don't know if you want to add some more detail around that.
It's my understanding that in the past, there have been certain grants that we've made to, parks and other organizations as part of the menu. So, I think this is just general language in the case that, anyone's project requires so. but there's none that I know of right now in this pot.
Okay, so why is that in there? 'Cause, again, I'm lost. You said parks. Parks is not a not-for-profit, so I'm lost. Grants to assist not-for-profit organizations.
So what we can do, Alderman, is pull for you in the past if we've ever awarded menu funding or general capital funds to, it's not just menu. This is language that I think we've used in the past for capital. So we can pull, you know, I could provide some background on what types of nonprofits we've granted.
I didn't even know I can buy my computer with this. So I can buy a computer with menu money too?
I do not believe that's on the menu.
Let's say the acquisition of personal property, including computer hardware and software, vehicles or other capital used for necessary for city purposes?
So again, this is, that language is for the broader capital, not just menu. So there's three components for this 100 million that we're bringing. It does include the 83 for the menu. We do have vehicle purchases and replacement, as well as $3 million for the shared cost sidewalk
So
program.
what's going to be helpful for me is really what, because when I read all of this, I'm assuming all of that is that $100 million can be spent for this stuff. And now I'm hearing some of it can't. So what's going to be helpful for me if that's clear? So I need to, it's confusing.
Okay,
Alderman, we'll have them give you everybody a complete breakdown and put that through the chair out to each.
for the 100.
Yes.
Yes.
And a breakdown of, as Ms. Bennett said, a breakdown of any past uses like that for not-for-profits.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
David, I guess this is basically miscellaneous. This is Cardenas.
Alderman,
from an accounting standpoint, it's just simply miscellaneous. You got to bond the whole thing, and there's always going to be miscellaneous costs, non-menu, that will probably be included, including the cost shared sidewalk program, the CDOT sidewalk repairs and maintenance that we sometimes ask, and they are providing. So if you have some sidewalks that are broken, you get a couple of pieces repaired, and it comes out of the menu from CDOT, not your menu.
okay. Let me go back in order here. Alderman Sadlowski Garza.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't want to be redundant, but I'm glad we're going to have a conversation about menu because my colleague Anthony Napolitano spoke about he's going back to streets that he did 5 years ago. I have the largest ward in the city, the largest industrial corridor, the biggest manufacturing district. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a machete wound for me. There's streets that I still haven't got to from 5 years ago. So I'm glad that we're going to have a conversation around this. I have 5 movable bridges, second most next after downtown, that the approaches, the sidewalks literally are being covered with pieces of plywood that you could see straight down into the river. So I'm glad, I welcome the conversation around menu. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Villegas, and then Sposato and Alderman Beal.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to point out to the members of the committee that I'm hearing the sense of urgency from my colleagues that I'll be talking with the administration about doing hearings in the upcoming month. And just as we're talking about capital, I want to keep in mind that the city of Chicago provides some capital dollars to CPS as well as CTA. And so those agencies will also be part of the discussion to make sure that the monies that's been ported over to those agencies are accounted for.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Sposato.
Thank you, Chairman. I just had a point of information. My one colleague was talking about buying computers out of menu money that would come out of your office expenses. So you need computer updates in your office that come out of your office expenses. That's all I want to say. It's just a point of information.
Thank you.
I'm sorry,
Alderman
Chairman.
Beal.
I appreciate people chiming in and helping me. I already know that. I was talking about what was on that paper. So I'm very familiar.
We'll get to
Right.
that. We'll get to
Right,
that, Alderman. I'll make sure
I
we get
didn't
the
mean it by
details.
anything. It was just a point of information. I thought maybe you didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Alderman Beal, are you there?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. How you doing this afternoon?
Very good, sir. Go ahead.
Good. I just had a quick question for the ladies. I appreciate all the time and effort you guys have been putting in, but can you explain when we can look to get, projections and updates as far as the overall budget and deficit and things like that going forward? I got a resolution pending, and I was just wondering if I can get some answers to that resolution when we're talking about having discussions moving forward and things like that, when we expect to get a full overview on where we are with the budget.
Sure. So the city, that includes both finance and the budget office, has been running a number of different scenarios as it relates to what the cost of COVID is going to look like. We have, and I can do a really quick deep dive into that. The scenarios that we run include 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 6 month shelter in place revenue loss scenarios. But importantly, when we talk about revenue loss for the city, those numbers are easy to calculate. It's really the expected time frame for economic recovery, which will impact how much this COVID crisis will cost us. We have taken a look at research from economists all across the country, and that includes from the Federal Reserve, the CBO, the OECD, the banks, the rating agencies, the state of Illinois' projections, as well as other agencies within the city. And I can tell you from having reviewed extensively those revenue projections that the answer is no one knows exactly what the cost of this is going to be. In particular, given the fact that the recovery will, be decided within the next, several months in terms of how we come out of this and the time frame for that. The Governor's Restore Illinois plan and the 5 phases helps put a framework around that. But even at that, we don't know the exact timing of how we're going to come out of this crisis and ultimately what that cost will be to the broader economy. We have definitely run scenarios, and in terms of order of magnitude, the mayor has talked in general about the fact that overall we think this is a B-sized problem that we need for the federal government to help provide stimulus. There is currently with the HEROES Act a lot of discussion in terms of providing additional aid to state and local governments. But that'll be a key puzzle piece to how it is that we manage through this. Importantly, there will be a market reaction to that as well, which will also drive what our costs are. So it's really just a way of saying we are working on getting to a precise number as it relates to what the cost for us will be for 2020 and beyond. We know that it'll be several hundreds of millions of dollars, probably in excess of $500 million. We went into fiscal year 20 with approximately $100 million of excess refunding savings out of the transaction we executed in January. Thank goodness we did, because the market has since become extraordinarily distorted. The state of Illinois just priced some bonds at a 5.75, and our bonds overall were priced at a 3% level. And so that gives us good tailwinds going into this. We also received $470 million of CARES Act money, and there's a lot of work ongoing at this point to determine how much of that can help us to fund certain corporate fund expenditures that will ultimately help in offsetting some of the expenses we've seen related to COVID, as well as potentially some of the costs of the revenue loss. That work is ongoing, and ultimately Treasury is still providing guidance around that. So hopefully that's, gives you a framework of what we're running up against. We know that the size of this problem is going to be large, and it's something that we're going to need all of our resources and tools to be able to address. We are working through a financial plan as well as contingency scenarios to see how it is that we can address that. But that ultimately is the overall framework for where we are.
No, I definitely appreciate that. And, I really want to just get a little more in depth because, this is not the forum, and I appreciate you just giving me 2 seconds, Mr. Chairman. I really would like to know just when do you all expect to come before this body, give us, where we are, bottom line, going forward, where our shortfalls are, the whole gamut. Would you be available within the next couple of weeks in order to maybe come before the budget committee and talk about where we are as a whole? Not just, outside of the whole COVID issue, just the entire city budget as a whole.
Yeah, I think we're always happy to have a conversation about where we are. I think that having an in-depth conversation around numbers at this point is a little bit hard for us, but we're working to, be able to release those numbers. I would just, remind everyone that the city's fiscal year is December 31st. At this point, we don't think that we're going to, need to come back to city council to have to redo anything by way of the budget. But in terms of 2021, most certainly there'll be an extensive amount of discussions as it relates to how it is that we address that gap. And, obviously always, happy to have a conversation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Alderman Beal. Alderman Mitz.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to let you know that as you see me moving out, we are serving 150 constituents in my ward, and we're trying to feed them, so I'm doing a double task. So I do apologize if you see me moving. Thank you.
That's okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, on item number 12, may I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Alderman O'Shea. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and this motion carries. Thank you both for testifying, and we look forward to, as many aldermen asked, to speaking to you soon in the budget committee.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to communications from the Department of Law. Item number 13 is the monthly report of judgment and verdicts and settlements from the Department of Law for the months of March and April, and this will be placed on file with the clerk. Items 14 and 15 are authorizations for the payment of various small claims against the city and the denial of payment of various small claims against the city. If there is no objection, I ask that these items be placed in the omnibus. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And we're now going to move on to our supplemental agenda. If you want to pull that up, from the Department of Law, we have 3 proposed orders authorizing the Corporation Council to enter into and execute settlement orders in the following cases. And we'll have Renee Rodney speak to each one of these. 1A is Richard Hayes versus City of Chicago and Sergeant Khalil Muhammad for the amount of $2.250 million. 1B is Artis Aquino versus City of Chicago and Antonio Robinson for $750,000. And 1C is Pierre Green versus City of Chicago, cited as 15 CV 07928 in the amount of $300,000. As you can see in front of you there, and we will have Renee Rodney from the Law Department, Deputy Corporation Counsel, speak to item, I believe, 1A first. Renee, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Good morning. For the record, my name is Renee Rodney, First Assistant Corporation Counsel. Thank you for allowing me to testify today. I'm here to present 3 settlements for your consideration. And Mr. Chairman, would you like me to proceed with summaries of these cases and then open it up to questions, or do a more fulsome presentation?
Why don't we do a summary of each one and then take questions on each?
Okay. Starting with the Hayes matter.
Correct. Thank you.
Sure. This proposed settlement resolves a lawsuit brought by Ricardo Hayes through his appointed legal guardian. Hayes was shot by a CPD sergeant on April 13, 2017, in the area of 109th Street in Hermosa in Chicago. Hayes suffers from intellectual and developmental disability, functions at the cognitive level of a first grader, and has difficulty communicating. The COPA investigation in this case led to a finding that the sergeant used unjustified deadly force against Hayes. Following the shooting, Hayes has required several hospitalizations for his psychological condition and will require ongoing psychiatric and therapeutic treatment and monitoring, as well as placement in a long-term specialized care facility. The proposed settlement of $2.25 million, which is inclusive of attorney's fees and costs, is a cost-effective measure to limit the city's financial exposure. Are there any questions?
Okay, Renee, give us 1 second here. I want to make sure we've got this set up the right way. Are there any questions from the alderman? Alderman Sposato.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you once again, Renee. There's just one thing I have, and I'm supporting this, but I don't understand why we are responsible as a city for things individuals do off duty. I still cannot comprehend that. Just give me a little reason why we are responsible for a police officer shooting somebody off duty.
Sure. The sergeant, we anticipate, would take the position that he identified himself as a Chicago police officer when he called out to Hayes right before the shooting and ordered him to turn around and come toward him. That issue of whether the sergeant was acting within the scope of duty is something that would be a question for the jury to determine if the matter went to trial. So the sergeant was named as a defendant and the city was also named as a defendant. It was our estimation that the jury would find more likely than not that he was acting within the scope of his duty or scope of his employment by identifying himself as an officer, and that we would not prevail based on the plaintiff's cognitive deficiencies. He would not be able to testify in a competent manner as to what took place. So it would basically be the officer's word, and to disagree or dispute the officer's version of events, it's not something we would run away from, but it's something we could be unsuccessful on, which would lead to liability against the city anyway in that determination. So he was off duty. He was not in a marked vehicle. He was not wearing visible CPD clothing, but it is his version of events that he identified himself as a police officer when he stopped Hayes on the street, who he suspected may have been breaking into vehicles at the time he confronted him. And although an officer is off duty, they are allowed to respond to crimes. Now, was he justified in believing a crime was occurring in this instance? The video evidence doesn't support that. It certainly didn't support the use of force that he used against the plaintiff. But off-duty officers are allowed to intervene if they are witnessing a crime.
Thank you, Renee. It's just frustrating, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. So what I asked for was a motion to pass on item 1A. And all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, if you could say your name first.
Aye.
Slowly. Anyone opposed? Okay, no one opposed on item 1A. Renee, could you move to item 1B, please?
So just to confirm, that's the Aquino case?
In bold.
David, you're not muted.
Somebody mute. Okay, Renee, go ahead, please.
Thank you. The second proposed settlement involves the City of Chicago Streets and Sanitation garbage truck driver who rear-ended an SUV driven by Artis Aquino, a 30-year-old member of the Marine Corps. The collision resulted in Mr. Aquino re-injuring his surgically repaired left shoulder, herniating a disc, and spraining ligaments in his right thumb. Aquino alleges that the driver was negligent in his operation of the city vehicle. In addition to claims for medical expenses, pain and suffering, and loss of normal life, Aquino, who was medically separated from the Marines after this accident, seeks compensation for lost earning capacity and benefits as a Marine. We recommend settling this matter for $750,000, inclusive of fees and costs. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Renee. Do we have any questions from any of the aldermen?
This is Cardenas. Can she re-summarize? I heard parts of it. I know he's a Marine, and he suffered, obviously, it's a shoulder injury.
Yes, of
Is,
course.
is this, is it a Vietnam veteran, or is this Marine?
Let me provide a little more detail on his background and the
Please.
injury. So the accident occurred in 2017 when Mr. Aquino was approximately 30 years old. He was doing administrative work for the Marines at the time, but had previously been deployed overseas in 2006, where he conducted work in the field during wartime. So at the time, he was an active member of the Marines during the accident, but as a result of his injuries, which I'll talk about, he was medically separated from the Marines. After the accident, he was diagnosed with head trauma, neck, shoulder, back, and thumb strains. A doctor determined that the accident caused a re-injury to his surgically repaired left shoulder. Prior to the accident, Aquino was recovering from surgery for a torn labrum in his left shoulder and nearing the end of his rehabilitation period. His doctor had planned to release him from care and return him to full duty the week of the accident. According to the doctor, the impact of the collision destroyed the previous surgical repair of the left shoulder, which required him to perform a second surgery after the occurrence. The doctor reported that Aquino was making good recovery from his first shoulder surgery when the accident occurred, and he was on track to be returned to the Marines on a full duty basis without restrictions. The doctor also offered the opinion that the re-injury of the surgery caused Aquino to be involuntarily discharged from the Marines. A few weeks after the accident, another doctor diagnosed Aquino with a tear of the vertebral disc with a herniation in his lower spine, which in her opinion was caused by the accident. And although Aquino had experienced chronic back pain prior to the occurrence, the doctor found that his symptoms were aggravated by the collision. The doctor performed a discectomy in March 2018, but that operation did not resolve Aquino's symptoms and his pain levels fluctuated. The doctor testified that the back injury rendered Aquino physically unfit to serve as a Marine. Furthermore, the doctor has scheduled Aquino for a bi-level spinal fusion this coming summer, which will cost approximately $160,000. So the combined past and future medical expenses claimed by Aquino for treatment related to the accident are $288,000. The city's consulting medical expert opined that Aquino's medical treatment was objectively medically necessary and related to the accident. With respect to his service in the Marines, on December 30th, 2018, Aquino was medically retired from the Marines after 13 years of service. And prior to the accident, Aquino's personnel records from the Marines stated that he had quote unquote, unlimited potential and quote, an incredible work ethic, end quote. In 2015 to 2016, Aquino completed the Marines' rigorous physical exam with the top grade score, and Aquino claims a lost earning capacity from the accident in the range of 1.1 million to 2.3 million. In addition to economic damages, he has a significant claim for past and future pain and suffering and loss of normal life as a result of the collision. And he testifies that he experienced unbearable pain on a day-to-day basis, which has restricted him in terms of housework and activities with his children. So based on his past and future medical expenses and the potential for significant additional awards for pain and suffering, loss of normal life, and lost earning capacity, a jury verdict would likely be substantial, which is why the law department is recommending the settlement of $750,000 to limit the city's exposure.
Based on your summary, yeah, our exposure would be definitely more than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other questions for Ms. Rodney? Okay, there being no other questions, may I have a motion to pass on item 1B?
Motion.
Alderman Cardenas moves to pass on item 1B. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed on this item? Okay, in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion passes. And our third and final item is on supplemental as Pure Green versus City of Chicago. Renee, if you could give us the background on that, please.
Yes, this last proposed settlement involves Pierre Green, who brought his lawsuit against 2 CPD officers in the city of Chicago. In 2009, the plaintiff was 24 years old when he was arrested after he was in possession of a gun in a stolen car. The plaintiff claims he did not have a gun and was not in a stolen car. He further claims that the officer confused him with someone else. Plaintiff was convicted after a bench trial in 2011. In 2013, he was granted a new trial, but the prosecutor dismissed the case after plaintiff's motion to quash the arrest was granted. In total, Green spent 4 years in custody. He brings federal claims of fabrication of evidence, unlawful seizure, conspiracy, and indemnification. We recommend settling this case for $300,000, inclusive of fees and costs. Are there any questions?
Any questions from Alderman? Alderman Lopez, Alderman Lopez, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to refresh my memory. This is the case where the individual said that he was denied access to a proper defense or something along those lines. Is that correct?
Yes, Green filed for post-conviction relief claiming ineffective assistance of counsel based on his representation by the Office of the Public Defender. The judge agreed that his attorney during his bench trial should have cross-examined the officers on why they received a description for one type of vehicle, but pulled over the vehicle that the plaintiff was alleged to have driven. In addition to finding Green's counsel ineffective, the judge moved to quash his arrest, finding that the officers had no lawful basis to pull over the car Green was alleged to have been in the first place, since the OEMC dispatcher called out a different car with a different license plate. So without evidence of the stop, the prosecution chose to dismiss the case. So that's what led to his release from prison after 4 years.
And if I may ask, Chairman, what part of the settlement is being paid by the Office of the Public Defender for failure to provide adequate representation?
The city is paying the entire judgment. The Office of the Public Defender was not named as a defendant.
So I know during briefings, Chairman, and I'm going to reiterate it, you know, I know there's questions of whether or not somebody with I believe that this was the individual who also was questioned whether or not someone with a record or on probation would have a gun in plain sight. I just have problems with us paying for mistakes that happen when they're in pursuit of individual. And especially when the main crux of this gentleman's release was that his public defender failed. It's just hard for me to look backwards, and I will be wanting to be recorded as no on this and encourage my colleagues to do the same, because I think that if his representation failed him, then that's where his lawsuit should have been. But obviously, because the city has more money than the public defender's office, we are the ones, our taxpayers are the ones footing the bill yet again. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, when I go to the vote, I've already recorded you, but just take a moment to, when we pause to vote. Okay. Alderman David Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. Expressing some of the same colleagues as some of the hers as my colleague, Alderman Lopez, but also wanted to mention what people may not know from the briefing, and I'm talking about the public, in terms of what was discussed with us. The license plates were similar. And so I don't want our, and although the license plate was different from what the lady gave, it was similar to the one that they were supposed to be going out of. And that was, I think, the reason, in my opinion, for stopping. And then to find out when they did make the stop, it was someone that was still doing some illegal activity. And so it's hard for me to, and that happens sometimes. Some people stop a person for a traffic violation and find drugs. The intent wasn't to find drugs on them. It was the traffic violation. So because the officers, in my opinion, based on information that we was given, somehow mistaken the license plates because they were similar, seemed to be a reasonable cause for the stop. And the fact that then they made that stop, the person was, based on information we were given, was doing or had done something illegal. And so with that said, I too cannot vote for this. So I'll be voting no.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Moore. Alderman Taliaferro.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of point of information. Was the officer sued individually, and what was the original ask from the defendant in this case?
Yes, both officers involved in the stop were named individually in the lawsuit. And as far as the original ask, I believe it was, let me just check my notes, it was $600,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Napolitano.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry, I have a question. I tried to get this answer before and I might have mixed up what information I had. This vehicle that was supposed to be stopped for whatever crime was committed, the improper vehicle that was pulled over that the victim was in, was that vehicle also reported as stolen?
Yes, and if I could provide just a little more background to make that clearer. So on September 29th, there was a report of a carjacking of a maroon four-door Taurus with the license plate X905579. The carjacker wore a mask and used a gun. The next day, in a separate unrelated event, a resident in the area of 105th and Halsted, I believe, called 911 reporting occupants of a red four-door car containing, or multiple occupants of a red four-door car, license plate X951775, hiding an object behind her home in the alley. The OEMC dispatcher called out a report of a suspicious car with that description containing multiple occupants with the license plate X905579. The officers, defendants in this case, heard that description, and about 10 minutes after they heard it, they spotted the car from the carjacking the day before. They stopped it because it sounded similar to what was being called out. It was red in color, and the license plate number started with X9. However, it was not the car that the OEMC dispatcher called out. After they curbed the vehicle, the officers claimed that they saw the plaintiff in it with a gun in his lap, and he drove off and then fled on foot and tossed the gun. During the foot chase, officers briefly lost sight of the plaintiff, but then found him in the area standing next to a security guard where they placed him under arrest. So it was the officers stopping a vehicle that did not match precisely the description of the OEMC dispatcher. That's an area that was identified by the post-conviction judge as being an area the public defender should have cross-examined the officers on during the plaintiff's criminal trial.
Okay, but to reiterate, that vehicle, the wrong vehicle was also stolen, correct?
The vehicle that was pulled over was stolen. The plaintiff was
And
not charged with carjacking.
And was there a gun recovered as well in the whole incident?
Yes, a gun was recovered by the officers who pulled over the plaintiff in this case during the chase.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman. You can record me as a no as well, sir.
I will do that. Before we go on, I have Alderman Dowell.
Yes, Alderman Napolitano asked one of the questions I wanted to ask, which was on the original car, was it stolen? My second question was on the gun that was recovered, was Mr. Green's fingerprints on that gun?
The gun was not tested for fingerprints, as I understand it at that time. At least if in a gun case, if the officer witnessed the suspect toss the gun, it would not have been submitted for print. So,
okay, and what was he charged with? What was he convicted of, I should say?
being a felon in possession of a firearm or unlawful use of a weapon and possession of a stolen vehicle.
Even though his gun prints were not on the gun. All right, thank you, Matt, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Dow. Alderman Riley?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to be recorded as voting no on this item.
Okay, I have you there. Are there any other questions? Alderman Quinn. Actually, go ahead, Alderman Quinn.
I'd like to be recorded as no, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And I'd like to be
Alderman-
reported as no, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Alderman Sposato.
No, also for me, Chairman.
Okay, give me a second. Alderman Mitchell.
Chairman, I'd like to be recorded no as well.
Okay.
Chairman.
Alderman Reboyras.
No vote. Chairman, I don't think you have the votes for this item.
Alderman Cardenas, hold on a second. Alderman Burnett.
Yeah, record me as a no also.
Chairman, should we just do a roll call vote?
I agree.
Yep. Move to pass
Yeah,
by roll
I'm
call,
gonna-
vote, Chairman.
Yes, I'm going to do a roll call. Give me 1 second, everybody. Okay, let me just.
Okay, sir.
Chairman Alderman Lopez makes a motion to pass by roll call vote.
Yes, I'm going to call a roll in just a second. I'm just pulling up the roll call.
I believe Alderman Riley did that motion.
Yes. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, I'm going to call out the roll. Just unmute yourselves for a second. Alderman Hopkins. Alderman Hopkins. Okay, Alderman Dowell is a no.
No.
Alderman King. Alderman King. Alderman Sawyer.
Aye.
Alderman Mitchell is a no. Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderman Beal.
Yep.
Alderman Beal. Okay. Alderman Garza.
Aye.
Alderman Thompson.
Aye.
Alderman Cardenas.
Aye.
Alderman Quinn.
No.
Alderman Burke.
Aye.
Gotcha. Alderman Lopez.
I'm gonna call you
is
right
no.
back in
No.
2 minutes.
Alderman Moore. David
No.
Moore.
No.
Curtis. Alderman Curtis. Alderman O'Shea. Alderman O'Shea. Alderman Brookins. Alderman Tavares.
No.
Alderman Scott.
Aye.
Alderman Burnett was a no.
No.
Alderman Urban.
Aye.
Alderman Taliaferro.
Aye.
Alderman Reboyras. No.
Oh.
Alderman Austin. Alderman Austin. Alderman Villegas.
Aye.
Alderman Mitz.
Aye.
Alderman Sposato, no.
No, thank you.
Alderman Napolitano, no.
No.
Alderman Riley, no.
No.
Alderman Smith. Alderman Smith.
Aye.
Okay. Alderman Tunney. Alderman Tunney. Alderman Osterman. Alderman Osterman. Alderman Silverstein. Vice Chair Hairston
Aye.
and Alderman Wagasback votes aye.
Alderman Burnett changes vote to an aye.
Okay. Alderman
Osterman,
Burnett.
aye. Osterman, aye too.
Yeah. Give me 1 second, folks, to add up there. One second. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have 17 ayes and 10 nays. So the item passes by roll call vote. When I report this out to next month's meeting, just make sure to double check on those, but I will follow up with anybody if there's any issue. Okay, everyone, that item does pass in 1C, and that concludes the meeting of the Committee on Finance, and I want to thank everybody for their patience even through the technical glitch. May I have a motion to adjourn on?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, Alderman Spizzato moves to adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Aye.
Good luck today with the rain.
All right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Anybody want to stick around?
No, thank
All
you.
right. The ayes have it. Committee is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.